Hello and welcome. I'm Asavri Jindal and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top stories of this hour. The Israeli military announces humanitarian and aid will enter northern Gaza. This comes as the UN chief highlights Israel's resolve to pursue full military action in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to meet US President Donald Trump following UN address later this month. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirms airstrikes on Yemen's Hodeida port, targeting Houthi forces. In retaliation, Yemeni armed forces report launching hypersonic missiles and drones at Israeli sites, escalating the intense conflict between the two sides. US President Donald Trump arrives in the UK for a historic state visit where he confirms discussions on refining the US-UK trade deal. Speaking to reporters, the US President highlights the success of current trade agreements and emphasizes his commitment to improving economic relations. The suspect in the murder of Charlie Kirk appears in court by video from jail as prosecutors seek the death penalty. Authorities reveal the suspect confessed in a hidden note, claiming he had enough of Kirk's alleged hatred. Russian President Vladimir Putin oversees Belarus-Russia military drills with 100,000 troops as India and Iran join the exercise. The maneuvers feature nuclear-capable bombers and heavy artillery, highlighting growing defense ties and strategic cooperation among the nations. EU chief von der Leyen announces plans to accelerate phase-out of Russian fossil fuel imports after call with President Trump. The European Commission is set to unveil its 19th sanction package, targeting crypto, banks and energy as a part of intensified efforts against Russia's war economy. Trump extends TikTok ban delay until December 16th as US-China trade talks continue. According to reports, both sides share interests in resolving the TikTok issue, with China pledging to review technology exports and intellectual property matters in accordance with the law. Syria announces security talks with US and Israel on southern stability plan amid Syria violence. The US and Jordan-backed roadmap includes the withdrawal of heavy weapons for the region and aims to address security concerns following Israeli strikes and escalating sectarian conflict. While the United Nations Security General Antonio Guterres rejected the idea that a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine could be considered a gift to Hamas. He has argued that such a solution would instead be a gift to the Palestinian people who have suffered greatly because of the conflict. Guterres also commented on Israel's stance regarding its military campaign in Gaza, noting that Israel appears determined to continue its operations up to the end and is not currently open to serious peace negotiations. He also pointed out that this position could lead to significant consequences from Israeli perspectives. Let's take a look, and in fact a closer look, at what the United Nations Security General has to say.
First of all, it's not a gift to Hamas because the two-state solution is something that is not also in Hamas program, as you know. It is a gift to the Palestinian people that has suffered also a lot because of Hamas. At the present moment, it looks like Israel is determined to go up to the end and not open to a serious negotiation for a ceasefire, with the dramatic consequence from the Israeli point of view that it is also not allowing for the release of hostages that we have always said should be immediate and unconditional.
In his remarks, Guterres also described the situation in Gaza as horrendous, adding that the ongoing war is morally, politically and legally intolerable. Furthermore, Guterres also expressed his willingness to meet the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and US President Donald Trump at the United Nations next week. Take a listen.
What happens in Gaza today is horrendous. We are seeing massive destruction of neighborhoods, now the systematic destruction of Gaza City. We are seeing massive killing of civilians in a way that I do not remember in any conflict since I am Secretary General. And we are seeing dramatic obstacles to the distribution of humanitarian aid. At a certain moment, it completely stopped, with the consequences that the Palestinian people is suffering an horrendous situation with famine, with no access to any kind of health support, and with continued displacement and the imminent risk of losing their lives at any moment. So this is something we cannot forget, independently of the names that are given. The truth is that this is something that it is morally, politically, and legally intolerable. I will be delighted to receive Prime Minister Netanyahu if he asks for that, as I will do with any other member, head of state. And of course, according to the rules, I will inform, if that is the case, the International Criminal Court. But the gravity of the situation in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories more than justify that if the Prime Minister of Israel wants a meeting, for me to grant it.
This comes as Israeli military spokesperson Efi Defrin has delivered an address confirming that the ground assault has begun in Gaza City, with more troops expected to join soon. Defrin has said that the objective of the stage is the return of the hostages and the defeat of Hamas, and the operation will continue until the objectives are achieved. According to reports, the number of soldiers are expected to rise in the coming days to confront up to 3,000 Hamas combatants, and the IDF believes are still in the city. Meanwhile, Gaza health officials have reported that at least 70 people have been killed on September 16th, the majority of them in Gaza City. However, Defrin has emphasized that despite the ongoing military operations, there would be no starvation in Gaza. He's also stated that humanitarian aid would be delivered to the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Let's take a closer look at what the Israeli military spokesperson has to say.
הלילה, בהתאם להנחיית הדרג המדיני, פתחנו בשלב הבא במסגרת מבצע מרכבות גדעון. מטרת המבצע היא השבת החטופים והכרעת החמאס בעיר עזה. אנחנו פועלים על פי תוכנית סדורה שגובשה על ידי מפקדי צה"ל ואושרה על ידי הדרג המדיני. כוחות צה"ל החלו הלילה בהתקפה אל עבר ליבת העיר עזה. כעת בעיר עזה פועלות 3 אוגדות, אוגדה 98, אוגדה 162, ובימים הקרובים תצטרף לתמרון אוגדה 36. במהלך השבוע האחרון, מטוסי חיל האוויר תקפו עשרות מבנים רבי קומות בעיר עזה, בהם חמאס הציב אמצעי תצפית ותשתיות טרור. אלו הם מבני טרור המשמשים את מחבלי החמאס למעקב ופגיעה בכוחות צה"ל הפועלים בשטח. להערכתנו, עד כה התפנו מהעיר יותר מ-350,000 תושבים. במסגרת התוכנית המבצעית ובהתאם להיקף האוכלוסייה הצפוי להתפנות, התאמנו את המאמצים ההומניטריים לתושבי רצועת עזה. זאת בהתאם לדין הבינלאומי. אני רוצה להדגיש, לא יהיה מצב של הרעבה ברצועת עזה. סיוע הומניטרי יועבר גם לצפון הרצועה.
Major General Sudhakarji, senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert, joins us from New Delhi, India. So thank you so much for joining us on NewsX World. I'd like to understand from you, what do you make of the current situation on the ground as far as the Israel-Gaza war is concerned?
Good morning, Asavri. Thank you for getting me to your show. Coming straight to the question which you have asked, my understanding about the whole issue is total disregard to rules-based international order by Israel. No matter what the objective is, be it the political or the military objective, everything has to actually develop as per the defined boundaries. I don't think the boundaries are being controlled and being regulated by any organization, any architecture, globally or otherwise. One. Number two, I personally feel that like the League of Nations, they collapsed and gave led to formation of a transatlantic architecture in the global body. I think, in my opinion, this perhaps disregard to the rules-based international order and blatant violation and non-supply of humanitarian assistance. Look at the situation unfolding in Gaza. I think it called for a complete revision of or revisit to the entire structure which is existing as part of an apex global body. We just heard the UN Secretary General giving out his articulations and statement. He is also in a state of desperation, not desperation, I would say totally disillusion. He's helpless. He says that nothing much. You see, he, as a Secretary General of the United Nations, that the whole global body has created, he must have some gravitas and the weightage. He doesn't seem to have the weightage. Nobody seems to listen to him. And third and most important thing is there is a bigger aim which is unfolding, Asavri. That bigger aim is no matter how much of debates and declamation and discussion we carry out on the media, the bigger aim is the clean break. This is that project which came into existence in 1997. Netanyahu happened to be a member of that team. There are a lot of Congress and senators, congressmen and senator in that. It's a top secret document then. I don't know the status now. As per that, the very concept of two-nation theory doesn't exist. And therefore, the current operation, ongoing operation, perhaps the hidden agenda of Israel is that they do not accept the UN approved profile of the Palestine, that is two-nation theory. They are going on. Do you tell me 500 kilometers of tunnel, 40% have been actually reduced to, they have been decimated. Remaining 60%, will they be able to find out if they have not been able to find out in past 2 years? Number two, 60,000 Hamas and their associates have been killed, or more than that. And I'm given to understand 38 to 40,000 more have joined the Hamas. Can you decimate or kill or wipe out the Hamas as far as the ideology is concerned? No. The physical wherewithal, who's supplying, where are they getting the money from, is enough. The time has come, we need to go into the specific details, the money laundering, who's supplying the money, and therefore you need to choke them where it actually hurts them, rather than going blatantly, destroying all the multi-story buildings, killing innocent civilians. This is not on. Last but not the least, the Secretary of United States had come yesterday. He had visited, he's met the Prime Minister, Mr. Netanyahu, he's had a discussion, he's given a statement to the effect that this conflict will not come to an end by factor of diplomacy.
Right.
Contrary to a statement given by Donald Trump. Donald Trump says that by dialogue and diplomacy, the conflict will come. No, it doesn't. Because my takeaway on the whole issue is until unless one of the stakeholders carries out some strategic restraint in application of its kinetic component, the other stakeholder will continue to retaliate and also spiral the conflict which is going on. It will never come to an end. Back to you, sir.
Right, so absolutely. I request you to stay on with us. We have some more news to reflect. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says US President Donald Trump has invited him to meet at the White House on September 29th, 3 days after Netanyahu's scheduled address at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Netanyahu says the invitation came during a phone call on Monday, and he has held several conversations with President Trump since Israeli strikes on Hamas leaders in Qatar, and all of them were good. This will be the fourth meeting between the two leaders since Trump's second term began. Let's hear into what Netanyahu has to say.
היו לי כמה שיחות איתו אחרי התקיפה, וכולן היו טובות מאוד, כולל שיחתנו אתמול. ושני דברים יצאו מזה. אחד, שהוא הזמין אותי לבית הלבן, זה יתבצע בעוד שבועיים ביום שני, אחרי הנאום שלי באו"ם.
Meanwhile, reactions from the world leaders continue to pour in regarding Israel's ground offensive in Gaza City. Canada's foreign ministry has called Israel's new ground offensive in Gaza City horrific and said that it worsens the humanitarian crisis and jeopardizes the release of the hostages. Spain's king has also denounced the unspeakable suffering of hundreds and thousands of Gazans under Israeli bombardment in the Palestinian territory. Let's listen in to what he has to say.
España y Egipto compartimos un anhelo que sostenemos con convicción. Una convivencia pacífica, diálogo y reconciliación en Oriente Próximo, que permita finalmente un entorno de estabilidad para el desarrollo de los pueblos con dignidad y con justicia. De momento, parece una utopía, pero debe ser posible y todos debemos contribuir a que así sea. El último episodio de este conflicto, desencadenado por el brutal ataque terrorista a Israel de hace ya casi 2 años, se ha extendido demasiado su sombra y ha provocado una respuesta con incontables víctimas que ha degenerado en una crisis humanitaria insoportable, el sufrimiento indecible de cientos de miles inocentes y en la total devastación de Gaza.
On the other hand, local media reports suggest that Japan will not recognize a Palestinian state for now, a decision that is likely taken to maintain relations with the United States and to avoid hardening of Israel's attitude. This comes as several governments, including those in Britain, France, Canada, and Australia, have said they will recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly this month, adding international pressure on Israel over its actions in the territory. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that Israel struck the port of Hodeida in Yemen, describing it as a main supply hub for the Houthis. He said troops are advancing deeper into Gaza City with the aim of defeating Hamas, while also working to evacuate civilians and open additional escape routes. An Israeli Defense Forces official confirmed that more soldiers will be deployed to confront an estimated 3,000 Hamas fighters still in the city. Gaza health officials reported that at least 50 people were killed on Tuesday amid heavy airstrikes and tank advances. Let's listen in to what the Israeli Prime Minister has to say.
אני פה בחמ"ל בקריה יחד עם שר הביטחון, סגן הרמטכ"ל, ראש המל"ל ומפקדים בכירים של צה"ל. כוחותינו פועלים בכמה וכמה זירות. לפני דקות אחדות הטייסים שלנו תקפו את נמל חודדה בתימן, זה נמל האספקה הראשי של משטר הטרור של החות'ים. במקביל כוחותינו פועלים בעזה, בעיר עזה, במטרה כמובן להשיג את הכרעת האויב, אבל במקביל גם לפנות את האוכלוסייה. ואנחנו עושים מאמצים כרגע לפתוח צירים נוספים כדי לאפשר פינוי מהיר יותר של האוכלוסייה העזתית, להפריד אותם מהטרוריסטים שאותם אנחנו רוצים לתקוף.
Meanwhile, Yemen's Ansar Allah claimed it fired Palestine 2 hypersonic missiles at an Israeli facility and launched drones at Ramon Airport, warning of further retaliation if Israel continues its offensive. The Israeli military said it intercepted a missile from Yemen, reporting no damages or casualties. This is what the Houthi military spokesperson has said.
نفذت القوة الصاروخية في القوات المسلحة اليمنية عملية عسكرية نوعية، وذلك بصاروخ باليستي فرط صوتي نوع فلسطين 2 مستهدفا هدفا حساسا للعدو الإسرائيلي في منطقة يافا المحتلة. وقد حققت العملية هدفها بنجاح بفضل الله، وتسببت في هروع الملايين من قطعان الصهاينة الغاصبين إلى الملاجئ.
Major General Sudhakarji, senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert, is still with us on the broadcast. So thank you for being so patient with us. I'd like to understand from you, how do you foresee this meeting between US President Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu in the backdrop of the address at the United Nations General Assembly in New York?
Somebody, you have raised a very important question, although the answer is anybody's guess. All that comes to my mind is a couple of things. Before I respond to your question in specific, we need to understand how the battle is actually panning out in the Middle East. You see, hypersonic missile, not many people understand. It is supposed to be the preserve of exclusives. If hypersonic missile have gone into the hands of the non-state actors, the Houthis, and who dominate the shoulder of the Red Sea, then anything can happen. Why stop here? You could think in terms of having dirty bombs also with them. So these are very dangerous trends which are actually proliferating in Middle East. Second thing I wish to highlight is that often in your channel I have alluded to the Octopus doctrine. The Octopus doctrine, essentially, the head of the octopus is Iran, and all its tentacles, they are spreading all over. Four main ones are the Houthis, the second is Hamas, the third is Hezbollah, and the fourth one is starting with some Hasib Said, something like that. Which came into existence post the attack to break the backbone of the ISIS way back in 2017 by USA forces and the allied forces. So basically what I'm trying to highlight in this is that while the tentacles have been weakened in Middle East and the head of the octopus also has been hammered nice and properly, yet the 20 people who are alive, I'm talking about the hostages, they are not being freed by Hamas. If that is not happening, then what is the issue which, if they tackle, they will be able to negotiate and come to some kind of a solution? So my only whole point is, I think, Asabri, we are getting distracted by the co-panelists. You may like to, in the studio, switch them off or blank them for
right,
the time.
so my team is just taking care of that, but continue, please.
Since yours is a global channel, you should be more careful and mindful of all these distractions in future. What I am coming to is that the issue needs to be resolved in multiple means. The complete problem has to be divided into short term, medium term, and long term. In short term, the method is, firstly, they have to get the people released, the Hamas. Second, they want to destroy the tunneling and the wherewithal, the armaments and the warlike stores. This could be the short term. Medium term, They have to take a long term process to actually, stop the money laundering, stop all assistance coming from everywhere. But all these things, in my opinion, will not come to an end. The talk which you have asked me in your question, all that it is helplessness. Nobody has got any answer to be given to Netanyahu. Netanyahu also, in a way, is correct. He's defending his own people. He's not wrong. But he's gone beyond all limits. So therefore, my take on the whole issue is that a person like Secretary General, when he says something, when he pleads for help, for the sake of humanitarian, some kind of a norm to be followed at the global order, I think he should be respected and he should be heard. If it is not happening, then it is about time that this incident should be taken as a trigger for reorganization and reformation of another architecture which will have some say and weightage in the global order. Back to you, Asad.
Right, so absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX World, sharing your perspectives. We're going to leave it there and shift our focus to some developments that we are tracking from United Kingdom. While US President Donald Trump has arrived in Britain for his second state visit, he was welcomed by Britain Foreign Secretary Viet Cooper and representatives of King Charles before heading to Winfield House, the US ambassador's residence. The visit is expected to see the signing of investment deals worth over $10 billion, with both sides looking to refine an existing trade agreement. Trump also praised King Charles, calling him a longtime friend and an elegant gentleman. Let's listen in to what Trump said.
It's going to be nice, but basically we're also on trade. They want to see if they can find a trade deal with them, because we're doing a deal, and it's a great deal. And I'm into helping them. Our country is doing very well. We've never done this well. We're having trillions of dollars coming because of the tariffs. And they'd like to see if they could get a little bit better deal. So we'll talk to them. But we're going to have to make a deal. Zelensky's going to have to make a deal. And Europe has to stop buying oil from Russia. Okay? They will talk. But they have to stop buying oil from Russia.
Well, the arrival of Trump was not without controversy. Protesters gathered in Windsor, where images of Trump and Prince Andrew, alongside convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, were projected onto the castle walls. Police later confirmed 4 arrests linked to what they call a public stunt. The state visit marks another attempt by Washington and London to renew their special relationship under Prime Minister Keir Starmer's leadership. Let's in fact listen in to what some of the protesters had to say.
Trump coming to Windsor for a second state visit. I think it's disgusting that, state visits aren't given out very often, and the fact that we've given 2 to someone like Trump, who's caused turmoil across the whole world and within his own country, is just horrible.
Trump is known, despite trying to hide it, to have consorted with Epstein. Why is he welcomed? And Andrew, it's right that Andrew has been ostracised, but Trump should have been as well. He should not have been welcomed here with open arms, as far as I can see.
I've come here today because I think we are going on the road to fascism, and I think it's very dangerous, the road we're going down, where somebody is becoming a dictator. And basically, I think Keir Starmer's been taken in a little bit by him so that he thinks he can get a deal with Donald Trump. But I don't think Donald Trump is trustworthy.
Mr. Scott Faulkner, head Eagle Enterprises security firm, joins us from Washington. Thank you so much for your time speaking to us on NewsX World. I'd like to understand from you. The conversation over here is about renewing the trade agreement between the United States and the United Kingdom. How do you foresee it?
I think there's still a lot of details that need to be worked out. And so Trump meeting with the Prime Minister and Trump's entourage meeting with some of the other inner circle around the Prime Minister, and they're going to be meeting at Chequers as opposed to number 10, that this is an important and very timely visit in terms of working out the final aspects of the UK and US trade relationship. So very, very timely, very important, and hopefully some new details will be announced as those meetings conclude.
Right, absolutely. I request you to stay on with us as we shift our focus to some other news that we are tracking. Well, Tyler Robinson, the suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination, has made an initial court appearance via video link from jail. The Utah County prosecutor Jeff Gray has said that the state will seek death penalty for the suspect. Listen in.
Also, following the press conference, I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. I do not take this decision lightly, and it is a decision I have made independently as county attorney, based solely on the available evidence and circumstances and nature of the crime.
Jeff Gray has also announced the 7 charges filed against Robinson. These charges include aggravated murder, obstruction of justice for disposing of evidence, and witness tampering for asking his roommate to delete text implicating him. Meanwhile, FBI Chief Kash Patel has made an appearance before the Senate Judiciary Committee for his handling of the Kirk and the Jeffrey Epstein cases. Patel has rejected criticism over his handling of Kirk's assassination. Take a listen.
A few hours later, that suspect was in custody, pursuant to the interrogation of the suspect's own father, who stated, "When I saw that video that you released, I recognized it was my son, and I confronted him, and he was handed over to lawful law enforcement authorities." That is the FBI working with the public, as I promised, being transparent and providing critical information along the way in the manhunt for the suspect and suspects involved in Charlie's assassination.
Well, now authorities have also retrieved a text exchange between Robinson and his roommate, who is a transgender person and, according to authorities, Robinson's partner. According to the charging documents released by the Utah County, Robinson allegedly texted his roommate on the day of the shooting and discussed his rifle, possible motive, and other details. Robinson's roommate has told the police about a note left by Robinson under the keyboard, which read, "I have the opportunity. In fact, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Police has said they found a photo of the note. In the text messages, Robinson's roommate asked him why he did it, to which Robinson allegedly said that he had had enough of Kirk's hatred, revealing the possible motive for the assassination. In the text messages, Robinson discusses retrieving his rifle. He also asked his partner to delete this exchange and not take any interviews or make any comments. He also allegedly said that if the police ask questions, the roommate should get a lawyer and stay silent. Okay, I'm going to try to decode what exactly has been said, the exchange between the two. Well, Robinson started by saying that I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. The roommate responded back by saying, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" She was, of course, the person was, of course, questioning Robinson on that front. Robinson stated, and I quote, I'm sorry." The roommate further asked, "I thought they caught the person." Robinson responded back saying, "No, they grabbed some old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after." The roommate questioned, "Why?" Robinson said, "Why did I do it?" The roommate responded, "Yes." Robinson said, "I'd had enough of this hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. I am able to grab my rifle unseen. I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully, they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it." The roommate asked, "How long have you been planning this?" Robinson responded back saying, "A bit over a week, I believe." Robinson then said, "I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't know if I had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about Prince. I have left it in a bush where I changed outfits. I didn't have the ability or time to bring it back with me. I might have to abandon it, and I hope they don't find Prince. How will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in the towel. Remember, I was engraving bullets. The messages are mostly a big meme. If you see notices is, in fact, they've spoken about Fox News. I might have, in fact, stroke all right. I'm going to have to leave it there, and it really sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think it was a $2,000 scope. Robinson then said, delete this exchange. He further said that since Trump has gotten into office, his father has become a pretty diehard MAGA. Robinson then said, I'm going to return myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. He then said that you are all I worry about, my love. The roommate said, I'm much more worried about you. And Robinson responded back saying, don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police asks you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. Okay, we've taken you through the entire conversation, the exchange between Tyler Robinson and the roommate. In fact, still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Scott Faulkner. Sir, I thank you for your patience, and I'd like to take this conversation forward with you by asking you, there were, of course, many unanswered questions to which we have some answers based on this conversation that's taken place, including whose rifle it was, how long had it been since this was orchestrated or it was in the making, and of course, why exactly that rifle was left in the woods. What do you make of this conversation, this exchange between Tyler Robinson and the roommate?
Well, obviously, it's a very strong set of evidence that he actually, he did it, and that he did it premeditated, and that he did it for political reasons. So that exchange is going to be critical for the prosecution team. For those who watched the actual first hearing today, because I know BBC showed it as well as other world media, that the judge is a very strong professional judge. He's doing it by the book. The prosecution team is doing it by the book. And so I think we're going to see a very strong case, which certainly these text messages are part of, the DNA evidence on the rifle itself, some of the impressions on the roof, as well as on the ground of the footprints, and certainly the video evidence. And this is a very, very strong case. And it's going to be moved forward by the book, by the prosecutors, and presided over by what so far seems to be a very strong professional judge. So this is justice will be served.
Time on NewsX World, sharing your perspectives. Well, this is all the time that we have for now. We will continue to bring you more updates from around the world. Stay tuned.